Hey, what's going on, guys? So welcome back to the channel, and probably the first thing you notice is this new lighting setup I'm testing out, and you guys will understand why I'm doing this entirely new setup by the end of this video. So as the video title says, and I know for a lot of you guys who've been following me for a little while, it's probably a big surprise to you, but I am officially leaving Thailand and going back to the United States. Now, what I wanted to do in this video before I got to what my plans are in the future and what's coming up here in the next few months, I kind of wanted to explain what the situation in Thailand is like right now, kind of what led to it, where we are, and really why a lot of people are actually leaving Thailand. To be perfectly honest, I would say easily 70% of the expats I know are leaving Thailand. They're on their way out or they've already left. So I kind of want to explain a little bit as to the kind of country Thailand is for those who have not lived here before or who haven't spent any significant time in Southeast Asia. And Thailand's not too different than a lot of countries in the world. Whoops, sorry, I'm over here knocking over stuff. Thailand's not that different from a lot of places in the world. Thailand is kind of a gray market country. So you have the legal stuff, basically what everybody knows the rules are, and then you have the illegal stuff, right? Gray, the middle is like the gray area, that gray market where pretty much everybody in Thailand lives. So if you have enough money, you can kind of pay your way out of anything. You can kind of finagle the system and kind of get around a lot of the barriers. And that's also as an expat or somebody who has a little bit of money here. That's kind of one of the benefits of living in Thailand, like where you don't have to, jump through all these hoops and do things like a lot of other people unfortunately have to do. It's just the way it is here. And I'm telling you, anybody who tells you that this isn't how Thailand operates is full of shit. It's Thailand operates based on this who you know kind of culture, and how much money you have kind of culture, the status system. And that's the way Thailand's always operated. For us expats, for those of us who've lived here quite a while, it benefits us. It's one of the best parts about living here, which is why you have a massive digital nomad community who ended up coming through here in the last decade, is because they can come here, they can work. The cost of living is extremely low. The legality of them actually working here is kind of glossed over and not really enforced in any kind of way. So you had that market in, say, Chiang Mai, Koh Phangan, Samui, and Phuket, and it's still operating to this day. The problem is now it's starting to bite us in our ass with COVID. So hopefully that's like the most controversial thing I say. Everything else from here on, I'm going to try to be factual, things that can be easily looked up and found online. And I'm still in Thailand. Thailand's my home. I have property here. Like, this is home for me. So I have to be very careful with what I say. I've seen a lot of people get mad reckless with what they're saying on YouTube about Thailand. So you guys kind of take what I'm saying and you kind of use your imagination a little bit. So let's talk about COVID-19 and the situation here in Thailand. And those of you who have followed me, follow me on Instagram. Also, if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, please. That's where you get all the behind the scenes and the good up-to-date stuff. But 2020 COVID response from Thailand was one of the best in the world. I believe they won some kind of award. Thailand and New Zealand were like number one and number two for COVID response last year, which was fantastic. Just an amazing experience to live through, right? And we had relative freedom really early last year. Lockdown started, I believe it was in March, and I believe we were done coming out of it in June, May or June-ish. We were starting to see restrictions lifted. By 4th of July weekend, we were on the beach in Pattaya out of lockdown, pretty much going to bars and clubs and having an absolute blast. But fast forward to the end of last year, and something that bothers me about the PR surrounding this whole Phuket sandbox thing, saying, oh, Thailand opened its borders to tourists. That's bullshit. Thailand has been open to tourists since last year. My friend Forrest got here in December of last year as a tourist. And they had this STV scheme, Special Tourist Visa, last year, but a lot of people didn't participate in it. But a lot of people, a lot of expats ended up getting back in Thailand based on a tourist visa from last year. So this whole idea that the borders haven't been open is just ridiculous. It's just not the truth at all. And a simple Google search would show that, right? And that was where the problem came in. A lot of us were saying last year that it was too early to open the borders because there were so many cases outside of Thailand, especially in countries where people tend to come to Thailand from. And pretty much what everybody said was going to happen happened. I believe one of the first foreign cases was a French woman on Koh Samui who had actually had COVID in quarantine. They caught it. But back then, you guys might remember, we went over 100 days without a domestic case of COVID-19 last year. And as soon as they opened the borders, COVID showed back. Samusakan, they ended up getting cases in December, I believe, at the market where you get a lot of migrant workers coming in from Myanmar and Cambodia. And of course, when you have migrant workers, a lot of illegal migrant workers, you have less than stellar living conditions where something like a COVID-19 can breed and spread very quickly. And that's when you had the markets that were just covered in cases. And then we ended up going back into a lockdown in January. And then fast forward to April of this year, when we had opened back up again, and all the bars were open, all the clubs were open, and then COVID started rapidly spreading all over again, which shows us, and we fast forward to now, which is, almost August, and we're in another lockdown. And guys, honestly, it's frustrating. I am beyond frustrated with the COVID situation in Thailand in 2021. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to look at other expats and other vloggers in Thailand. Again, I don't think some of these people want to come back because Thailand does not play, but it's to say it's dysfunctional would be a gift to how it's been handled in 2021. COVID-19 response with the lockdowns and border openings has been absolute chaos. So now that we talked about the COVID and the borders, let's talk about the actual vaccinations. And a lot of countries around the world have gotten vaccines this year. And Thailand was one of them. So the first vaccine that showed up was Sinovac, Chinese-made vaccine that a lot of people were like, I don't think I want to put that Chinese-made vaccine in my body. Fast forward, a lot of those people were right. There's been a lot of problems with the Chinese-made vaccine. The efficacy rate has plummeted. The Delta variant has just torn that thing apart. The rollout of vaccines here has been chaos. There was a Thai first policy where Thais would get the vaccine before expats, which to me 100% made sense to me. I always support taking care of a local community before you take care of expats or foreigners. Even though as expats we pay taxes, we contribute to the economy. I'm not talking about tourists or those of us I've been here 8 years, so those of us who've been here a long time, and I fully supported that. But the problem was there was no real plan for us. When a plan did start to kind of formulate, the website that they created for registration kept crashing, or you just couldn't get it. And guys, I'm not saying anything here that you cannot easily verify with a Google search. It has been for expats to get the vaccine here, it has been an absolute nightmare. If you weren't a teacher, now for some reason a lot of teachers I know ended up getting the vaccine super early. And if you're not a frontline worker or whatnot, but the rest of us expats, absolute chaos. AstraZeneca eventually made its way here, but there's been trouble with that rollout as well. So for the most part, it's been extremely difficult for foreigners in Thailand to get the vaccine. The Chinese government actually gave their citizens the vaccine at the embassy. I believe the French did as well. I believe maybe the Canadians did. I can't remember. I know it's like Chinese, French, and somebody else who did it. But for us Americans, for Brits, for Aussies, none of us got it. So, and one thing I forgot to mention was they finally announced that Moderna and Pfizer, I believe, were coming, but you have to pay 3,800 baht to get it. So you have to pay for the vaccine. And when the registration system came out, the people that were lucky enough to get in that actually paid, they ended up having their appointments canceled, and this was the same with the regular registration system. The biggest issue with this has been there's been so many promises made, and this is kind of the way Thailand works. Now, remember back to earlier when I said it's this kind of gray market, and I've been kind of watching my mouth with how I speak about the government here, but there are a lot of promises that are made, and they never happen. They say, oh, things are going to open up this day, and then all of a sudden 6 weeks later things might open up, or they say that this number of vaccines will show up this day, and 2 months later those vaccines still haven't shown up. It's a very big problem here, and when you come from a place in the West, it's very difficult for you to kind of bite your tongue and just kind of shut up and deal with it, because this is, for a lot of us, this is our livelihood. This is where we live. This is our home. And to see just the dysfunction is extremely frustrating, even though, and I'll go back to my original point, we kind of benefited from it for a long, long time. So what's the point of this video? I'm going home. I'm leaving Thailand in 6 days. And I honestly don't know when I'm coming back. It's kind of a bittersweet thing because I absolutely love this country. I love the people. I love the food. I love my home. I love everything about this place. But I'm starting to realize that I was never here long enough to really see the ugly side of living in Thailand. You guys got to remember, as a full-time travel journalist, I was on the road 8 months a year. So I was never really here long enough for these things to truly impact me. But now that I've been off the road 18 months, this dysfunction is really starting to impact me. And to see what's happening to my friends in the F&B industry, food and beverage industry, so many amazing restaurateurs are done. They will not return. They will not come back from things that were easily preventable, that should have been foreseen. They've been made the targets and the scapegoats for something that they had nothing to do with. And I would say the restaurant industry probably has been the best at combating COVID-19 in this entire country, and it's not even close. The bars made sense. I understood it, but restaurants have gotten, it is disgusting what has happened to the restaurants here. The level of disregard for those men and women in this industry, and I'm not just talking about expats, I'm talking about local Thais who've busted their ass and have worked in these places for decades, are now losing everything because of absolute mismanagement. So it's time to go. It's time to say goodbye to Thailand for a little while, at least the next 3 to 4 months. I'm heading back to the U.S. I'm going to L.A. to get my vaccine. I'll spend about 3 weeks in the U.S. and then I'll be heading off to work in Europe. I've got a few jobs lined up in the U.S. already and a lot of jobs lined up in Europe. The reality is it's better outside of Thailand right now for me. And a lot of expats. I said earlier, about 70% of the people I know, like expats, are gone. And a lot of people aren't coming back. One of my good friends, we just kind of had a going away chat today. 3 of us were just hanging out, and almost our entire friends group are gone. You guys have seen P-Mail, Jeff, my good friend, Thai Americans. They're back in the U.S. right now. So it's tough, guys. It's really, really difficult for me to make this video because I love it here so much. And I haven't been in this position of not knowing in a long time, especially when it comes to Thailand. Thailand's always been my place of respite, where I came to relax and get better and clear my mind and focus and reestablish these relationships that I've had for years, excuse me. But yeah, I'm rambling on now, so sorry about that, guys. So I'm gonna make another video. The next video you guys see from me in this format is gonna be breaking down kind of like my plans for the future and what I have going on, and what that's gonna look like. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below. What do you guys think about the COVID-19 situation globally, the vaccines, and what the future is? As usual, leave the world better than you found it. I will see you guys in the next video.